PR Connections Radio presents. This episode of Evelyn's Roundtable is brought to you by Classy Communications PR and Advertising. Classy Communications provides public relations and marketing solutions for businesses, professionals, and non-profit organizations. They can deliver the true meaning of your business with press releases, social media marketing, web development, email marketing, book publishing, and much more. Wherever your potential clients are, they can help you connect with them. Visit classycommunications.net to learn more about their suite of services that can help your business stand out from the rest. Classy Communications is your solution for business success.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Evelyn's Roundtable. This podcast highlights a host of relevant topics. Our conversations share voices of women of color, Black women veterans and veterans, allies, candidates, and elected officials, entrepreneurs, teachers, students, and others. We also explore important issues and challenges such as grassroots leadership, job training, homelessness, and mental health advocacy, accountability, male inclusion, and civics. Our mission statement is to empower all women. Do you hear me? All women to hold hands as we rise. Well, hello there. Thank you for being on here. I appreciate you so much. And I just, I love how you empower me. You don't even know. You empower me to keep moving and doing what I'm doing, because what you do is hard work. Let's just put it out there right now. What you do is hard work, and what you give back to the community is hard work. And I just want you to please to introduce yourself and please tell our audience a little bit about you and what you do.
Of course. So my name is Jessica Smith-Peterson. I'm a Chief Deputy Public Defender at the Clark County Public Defender's Office. I've been doing that since 2017. I ran in the most recent election cycle for Las Vegas Justice of the Peace Department. While I did not win that election, I am still at the Public Defender's Office, ensuring that our clients have their rights protected and that they are receiving the most adequate representation that they could have.
Wow. And that's big because, I mean, it's not easy here in Nevada. I believe it's not easy to practice law here. I believe it's not easy and very stressful. The courts, probably the backlogs, the intense of your clients. I'm thinking there's a lot going on.
There's a lot. There's definitely a lot. And, it's one of those things where you find balance in trying to do it all, right? It's like you think that the work will stop, the work never stops. And it's just kind of like a continuous cycle. One of the things that I just hope is that, I don't see the same clients over and over again, but sometimes you do. So there's always work to be done.
Wow. And speaking of balance, and because I have to just say about me, I mean, balance is everything, right? It's my nonprofit. It's my own things that I'm dealing with my family, dealing with the grandkids. And so how do you do that part of it? Because this is very high strung. I mean, it's a lot.
Yes. So a large part of it is I have two kids. I have a 4-year-old, I have a 1-year-old. I have, a spouse, I have family. Really trying to find that balance on okay, I have so much capacity to help people. You can give and you can give and you can give, but you cannot pour from an empty cup. So it's one of the things that is always kind of at the forefront is remembering, if I'm feeling on edge or if I'm feeling burned out, then it's time to actually reach out to the community that I've created and the people who are in my circle, my network, friends, family, just to make sure that like in order for me to do this work, in order for me to be the, best sister or partner or mother, I'm gonna need some assistance, and you gotta take where I can give, and vice versa.
Wow. That is truly what's happening. It
Yeah.
really is, because you got to balance yourself, otherwise you be cuckoo for cocoa puffs, for
This
real.
is true. This is true.
And I want to get a little personal. When you were running, and what were some of the things that you were running on?
So I was running on one is like compassion, right? So I think that as a public defender, we see everything in every facet, right? So you see the victim, you see the defendant, you see the family, you see the victim's family. Um, and it's like when people walk into a courtroom, they sense and they feel like, one, whether or not they're going to be listened to, but two, and that's, for anyone who's coming in there, but two, whether or not the person who is sitting on the bench is also knowledgeable, um, and aware of like the gravity of their situation. Um, Another thing that I ran on was wanting to ensure that like the programs that we had in justice court, so we have a veterans court and justice court, we have a mental health court, we have a justice court, drug court, that those could be supported and expanded, because I have seen as a defender what that does for a person who is in that program after they successfully complete it. Um, and how that has drastically changed their lives. And then the third thing is that, understanding that people may not respect the decision that is made by judges, but at the barest of minimums, like reading and understanding the law, and applying it and how it's meant to be applied, it's something that I really wanted to focus on, when I was running and campaigning.
Hmm. So are you saying, and are you saying that sometimes decisions that were made were not decisions that, or outcomes that you would like to have seen? Is that kind of what I hear you saying?
I think that as a public defender, we lose a lot. So there are times where I wish like my case had won, or I believe a ruling should have gone in my favor. And sometimes it's like rooted in, no, I think the law is on my side, which is why we have district court, um, to say, oh no, I think your case should have been dismissed, based upon like the law that we have. And I think that justice court judges, they're the first step, in a person's life when they enter our criminal justice system. And I think that the role is so important and so integral in how it shapes their experience with the criminal justice system. So yeah.
Wow. And that's interesting. And I'm not trying to get a little political here, but I think I kind of get because of what's happening right now as we speak. And that's exactly what's going on.
Right.
Is the lower court is in the fight right now for things that are happening right now in our United States right now. And it's interesting because that when I kept hearing about, oh, there's guardrails, and I'm like, what guardrails are there for when people that are in different positions or feel elite? Are there guardrails for them? Because
Right.
that's the way you feel, and that is happening right now. And the courts are standing their ground and actually saying, I took an oath.
Right. And you do take an oath when you hop onto the bench, right? You take an oath that you will uphold the law as it is written. Um, and I think that, that's the role of like judges, is to say, hey, this document or this case has shaped what we've decided to be, just at this point in time, because things change, right? You got
Yes.
Brown v. Board of Education is like, all right, maybe separate but equal is not the same. We should integrate the schools. But it evolves, but it also keeps us in check. It is the check and the balance of uh, our nation and what democracy is founded on.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, it's beautiful that you'd be on here at this time and all this
Right.
is going on, and it's just I have a few questions, but some of them I'm not going to talk about.
Okay.
Um,
Sure.
but that's uh, recidivism
Yeah.
is since and you know I'm doing Nevada Women in Trades, and we've talked about programs for
Yeah.
women in the courts, and we've had this conversation too that I don't feel there's enough resources for women that are coming through the judicial system or the district or the municipal system, that there's not a lot to say, hey, here's another resource for you to be able to job training.
Right.
I don't know. We had this conversation, and I'm just not seeing that a lot. Um, and I
Yeah.
know me and you talked about this.
So the reentry that we have, like, it's not as extensive as people may assume or may think, right? So one of the things that, like, the Nevada Department of Corrections, if someone's getting out of custody in the prison system, is to try to get them IDs and to try to get them identifications, because having an ID or not having ID really shapes basically like what you can and cannot do, what jobs you can get, um, where you can go, what services you can get. That also includes like getting a birth certificate, right? These vital documents that you need in order to be an individual in the society. But then it's like, okay, what's the next step? You give someone their ID, you give someone their driver's license, or you give them their birth certificate. What do they do to make money and to take care of the family that they had just been separated from for months to years, right? Um, and I don't think that we have that yet. I don't think that there has been a bridge directly to that. I have a client, well, I have someone that I met today doing a bail argument, and he was released from NDOC in December, and he's back in custody because the place where he could get resources is the jail, right?
Mm.
So, how do you bring someone back into our community if it's very difficult for them, having had been in NDOC for several years, right, or year or months, um, and it's like restarting your life, right? So you have a new job. How do you get that job? Or you need to get to work. How do you get, if you don't have a car, do you take the bus? How do you pay for that? Like, it is all cyclical, and it makes it very difficult for people who are re-entering into our society if you're coming out with nothing, right? And that doesn't even include like people who need medication, people who were medicated in the prison and then they're released back into the community. Well, sometimes people die. The home that they lived in is no longer there. The car that they had when they were arrested has been towed.
Mm.
And maybe they'll have the necessary medication. But if they don't, then it's kind of like restarting the clock, right? And that doesn't even get into whether or not they have the money or the job or the trade to be able to get the medicine so that they can be okay.
Isn't it something? I mean, um, again, when I started Nevada Women in Trades, and I thought, oh, I'm going to start this organization. Everything's going to be good. I'm
Right.
going to help these women, and everybody's going to get a job, and everybody. And then all of a sudden, all the other challenges start popping up, like you just said,
Right.
right? What about a place to live, and what about their clothes, and
Right.
getting clothes for the job too,
Right.
right? And not every job you can take a bus to.
Right.
Sometimes it's way out there. And again, in certifications and driver's license. Who would ever think, oh, you need a driver's license for the trades? I mean, right? I mean,
You
those
want
are
to drive trucks, you got to have a driver's license.
yeah, and those resources aren't available like that, and it's really something that you can go back just for something like that happening to
Yeah.
you. And I just, and it brings me to Florence McClure, women's correctional,
Yeah.
which I've always asked why there was no other resources there for when these women can get into society, and trades was not one of them.
Right.
And in cosmetology and do hair, like I've never said there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not downing that. I'm not, but my thing was, like you just said, or suggested, or I'm not saying you said this, so
Right.
I don't want to do that, but I said it. Well, how are they going to get clientele when
Right.
they come out? How are they going to rent a booth? How are they going to get their hair products? Because you need money for everything you're talking about. And when you come out of that system, like you said, you could have been in there, and we all know most of them, Florence and in High Desert, it's not a 1 year, 2 years. Sometimes it's a little bit.
It's a lot. It can be a lot.
And everything changes. Like you just said, you might have had a car. Well, now the car's not there.
Right.
You might have had a place to live. Now everybody's moved, or nobody can't let you stay there on their couch. And it just really was interesting to me that that's all they had. And I'm like, but you can't do that. And
Right.
that's one of the things I'm working on. And that's why I brought up to you about having a training like I have in the municipal court. I know they have Wind Court, and I've been trying for almost 7 years to get into Wind Court, and I still haven't gotten into Wind Court. And I don't get a right answer when I ask that. Why are you not? I mean, Wind Court, isn't that supposed to be for rehabilitation?
Right.
For women? I'm like, why are you not sending nobody my way? And some of the judges in Justice Court do bring up Nevada women trades, and I'm grateful.
Yeah. So, and it's funny. So like you have like so you have Las Vegas Municipal Court, right? And it's its own entity. And then you have the Las Vegas Justice Court, which is like run by the county. Then you have Henderson Justice Court and North Las Vegas Justice Court, and then the outlying justice courts. And then for the Nevada Department of Corrections, you get the High Desert, you get the Florence McClure, and then it all kind of trickles down. Like the reentry for like a lot of our prison systems is like fire camp. But it's not necessarily like, hey, here's this program, here's this trade, here's this school that you can go to. It's like when you're in custody, there are these resources that you could read about. And when you are released, then this is a possibility for you. But there's no like transition prior to someone being released into what their options are and how they could be better. Now, it may be attached to say like their parole officer, right? And the Department of Parole and Probation saying, hey, there are these options, here are these resources. But it's kind of like giving someone a pamphlet, right? And they're like, here go these options. You can choose one, without giving people the tools to do so. Sometimes people go into custody and they have like a 3rd grade reading level, or they go into custody and they don't know how to read, or like the basic skills that you would need for certain businesses, they may or may not have. But that's not being developed, or that's not being like acknowledged before they get released back into society. So if you have like a deficit, an educational deficit, and then you have like a just financial deficit, and then you have a life deficit, then it brings people back into what they know and what's familiar, which is being in custody.
Yes, and that's something, right? How that's a whirlwind right there. And that's exactly what's happening, because you're only familiar with what you're familiar with, right?
Right.
It's hard to be unfamiliar when you got to pay rent, when you got to eat, when you
Right.
got to buy clothes for your babies, and you're sitting there like, wow, do I go back and do this and take the chances of going back to jail? Yep, that's what I go do, because I got to pay my rent. I
Right.
got to eat. I got to feed my babies.
Right.
Wow. And you really hit that on wow. Wow. That was really good there. That was good. That was very good.
That's kind of like what we see, or at least what I've seen, or at least what I've perceived to be what's happening.
No, that's truth right there. It's just it's hard for me, because
Yeah,
it's like, wow, you can't see that, you're like, you can't see that,
it's like
can't
the
you see
connection.
that they go back in there, and all we have to do is this, and then the only thing is that I hear is, well, Evelyn, there's no funding. That's a good idea what you're talking about doing, and you want to help women to get into trades and all that, but we got problem with funding. There's no funding, and I'm like, no, wait a minute. So why is there no funding though for things like that? Um,
Right.
I'm confused.
I can't speak to why there's no line item, for example. I just know that, like, if we're looking at just like Nevada as a whole, um, we are looking at like our education system. We're looking at whether or not the casinos are bringing in money to help, generate money for the economy. We're looking at whether or not we have jobs, enough jobs for everyone. I think that, you have just like a flurry of issues and things that are going on in Nevada, to a point where it's just like, okay, what's our line item? Like, where could we squeeze this into the budget and not have to deal with like a shortfall that we already have? Again, I my purview is like being a public defender, so I can't really give you kind of like a detailed response as to why that is. That's just my assumption.
No, you did well.
Okay.
You did very well. You're doing very well, because I'm like,
Okay.
oh yeah, got me thinking. Oh yeah, that is right.
Okay.
That is happening. And the thing about it is, it's it's something, because you have, in I'm just gonna go there. You have a president that just got elected,
Mhm.
and that's fine. Whatever. The people made their choice. My thing is, you have a president that got elected that has all these felonies, and he's still the president anyways. But my thing is this. But then you have us normal folk that have maybe one felony
Yeah.
and still can't get a job, still can't get an apartment. And
Yeah.
that's only one.
Yeah.
And have you been hearing any talk about that? Because I've been waiting for the talk. Like, is there any talk about trying to, I'm not saying fix it, but has there been any talk? Because to me, I don't see why everybody's not talking about it. I'm
Right. Right.
waiting for it.
Well, so it's funny. I haven't heard any talks lately. I think that was like one of the things during the campaign season, is like, oh, you guys gonna elect a felon to be president of the United States, and people were like, yes, that shouldn't be a deterrent. Which actually challenges how we think. Like, do you think that a felony should bar people from living their life and doing things that make them active citizens in our society, right? Rules for others, but not for myself is where we are.
Right.
One of the things I do appreciate about the legislature that they did 2017, it went into effect in Nevada. It was to modify the amount of years it would take to seal your record.
Mm.
Um, I fully understand kind of like the legislative process is not very like black and white. It's like there's this ideal thing that is put out into the ether, and then it gets whittled down to something that, all sides can agree on. And what came out in 2017 was a change in the years in which people could seal their records and how quickly they could do that. I think that there's like a growing conversation with people who want to sell their records, at least with my clients that I'm seeing. I'm getting more phone calls, I'm getting more emails, I'm getting text messages. How can I sell my record? When is the day? Like, it's, your record could be sealed the day that your case closes. So if you're on probation, if your case closed January 1st, 2025, and it's like a 2-year, like wait time, then January 1st, 2027 is when you can seal it, right? Like people are asking those types of questions because they're seeing that, what we're doing in this economy is not working, because that misdemeanor or that felony or that gross misdemeanor is a hindrance in their life. And so while it may not be on the national stage, it's definitely a conversation amongst people who are directly impacted. And I think that is where the conversation should start, right?
Right. Right. And could you and I didn't even think about 2 years in talking. Could you tell and talk about the process of sealing your records? A lot of people don't know that
Right.
you can seal your records or what's sealable or can you just really, I know that's probably a whole different segment on itself about sealing your records.
Yeah.
Could you just hit on a little
So
bit?
I usually refer clients to Nevada Legal Services or the Legal Aid of Southern Nevada. Basically, depending upon what category, felony, gross misdemeanor, misdemeanor you have, there are certain years that you will have to wait before you could seal your record. If you have, say, a misdemeanor, it will be 1 year from when your case closes. But if you have a misdemeanor battery, it's 2 years, because that's considered to be something violent, right? Gross misdemeanors are 2 years because that's a little bit more extensive. And then for some felonies, it ranges between 5 and 10 years, or 3 to 10 years. DUIs are 7 years. And essentially, once your case closes and the time has ran, so we'll take a misdemeanor disorderly conduct. January 1st, 2025, your case closes. January 1st, 2026, you can seal your record. And you will have to get your scope, which is basically your document that says that you have this criminal conviction. You can go through Nevada Legal Services. You can go through the Legal Aid of Southern Nevada. They have classes where they'll teach you how to do it. And you will provide your information to essentially like the district attorney's office, the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department, or whatever entity where you endured your arrest was. You would go through them and you would begin the process of sealing. It has to be signed off. It has to have the requisite amount of time. And once that's done, it doesn't expunge it, right? It doesn't go away completely. But if someone is running a background check on you, it doesn't pop up. But there are certain entities that are allowed to see that record, right? Like federal government entities, like depending upon what your job is and what the classification is. Plus, if it's a federal job, you'll have to admit, like, oh, have you ever been convicted of X, right? And so it essentially like allows a person to restart, but it is after that time has allotted and after they have taken the necessary steps to seal their record.
Yes, which is very important.
Yeah.
It is. And I'm gonna I know you ran and I still have your t-shirt.
Yes.
I should have been having it, flashing it right now. I didn't think about it until right now. I wish I could walk away and come back and be like, here it is, because I do have it. I should have brought it in here. But do you or are you thinking about running again?
I think that, so I actually had a special election. So I'll start there. It was 100 days. There was no primary. It was just simply the general election. And one of the things that I realized is that the process in running, it's very extensive, right? It takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of money, it takes a lot of energy. But I actually really enjoyed it. And so it's one of those things where I feel like my personality was able to come out and shine while I was running for office. It was like, oh, okay, you're really good. Like you enjoy doing this. You get energy from this. Because I, at the time, had an 8-month-old and a 3-year-old.
Yes, you did.
And so I would like wake up with the baby super early. I would, help my husband get them dressed for school. I would go to work. I would have court. I would then go to campaign events. I would then have like interviews. I would then come home. And my husband's like, you have so much energy. I'm like, right? Like, I should be exhausted. I should be tired. But it was something that I definitely felt like was a good experience for me that I wouldn't rule out doing it again.
I was loving it. Like I said,
Yeah.
I got t-shirts, I got to eat and everything.
Yes.
And you had very good energy. You were never negative, and we all knew you was tired because you had the babies.
I had babies.
But you always, hi, talk to everybody. You never was like, oh my gosh, I'm never, none of that. I'm telling y'all on here who's watching this, she was beautiful. During and I'm asking because I really am hoping that you get back in there for the fight. I know there's a lot of seats coming up. And I know I can say that on this end because I don't have to put the money in there. I don't have to do the energy. I don't have to take the time away from family or my spouse or any of that. But and I'd never run, y'all, because no. I don't have the patience. I just don't.
It does require patience. Yes, I will say that.
Yeah. And I know already that I probably wouldn't say some nice things to certain people. So, but I really, really hope that you do. You do. We need women. We need women in these positions. We need women of color in these positions because I think we were talking about, not you specifically meaning, but I think that was a talk about how many women of color judges that we do have here.
Yeah.
And how many women judges. And women of color judges hits 2 marks, right? And there's not many here. And again,
no, not a lot, actually.
No.
I think it's less than 10.
Yeah. Yeah, right?
I think it's less than 10.
And then think about it, y'all. We got courts and jails all over Nevada, y'all. So we're for her to say that low number, wow. That I'm just gonna say you in Nevada. you in Nevada. And the thing is to change, right? Change is coming, y'all. Who was that one singer said, yeah, change is coming?
Was it Sam Cooke?
Yes. And it is. It's coming. It is. And I'm so glad that I'm part of history here for Nevada. You're part of history.
I'm glad you have this space too, as well, to like allow people to share and bring their thoughts and opinions on what's happening in the Valley, right? Outside of women in trades, but just like generally.
And that's exactly what this space is for.
Right.
The reason why I started it is because I was feeling some type of way that my voice was not being heard. And I couldn't, I had to come on here like this and make it open, but I wanted specifically to be about Nevada because this is where I live at. And these are the things and challenges that I'm going through. And I think that we need to pay more attention to reentry. That's a big part of a lot of things. And I know people think, oh, if we cure reentry, we won't have judges and cops. That's not true.
No, I definitely think that like the whole point of reentry is that you like put people back into the community that they came in. If we talk about like safety, right? Like that's like a big issue for every campaign. Safety is important. Safety is important. I don't want, to walk down the street and get mugged, or I don't want, to have like my identity stolen, or, I don't want my child to get hurt. Like part of safety is providing people with the tools and the resources so that they could like bring their own community like back into the fold. Safety is about providing people with the tools and the materials that they need in order to thrive, right? It's like you're potting plants, right? So you have this soil and you put the seeds in, and then you water the seeds, and then you make sure it gets enough sun, and then you water it, and then you make sure it gets enough sun until it sprouts into something, and then you repot it, right? The
Right.
idea that you are repotting someone back into their community, you don't just sprinkle the seeds out and then hope for the best, right?
Mm,
You do
I
have
love
to
that. That's another good one. I'm gonna steal that one from you too. I like
you
that
do
one
have
too.
to like provide and nurture. And I think that when you talk about community, like that's what community does. Is like we make sure people are okay. And we make sure that they have the things that they need in order for us to feel safe.
Yes, because that's how this works.
Yeah.
And I have a really good mentor of mine, and Sergeant Dixie, and she has a book that talks about As You Were, and it's about getting out of the military and all of that. And I was like, wow, that's cool. It's only like $5, and on Amazon, and I was like, wow, that'd been cool for me to have a book like that on information on what I do when I get out of the military. And I don't even know why it came to my thought, but it did. I wanted to know how many women veterans were in prison up in Florence McClure.
Mhm.
And and it was interesting because it took me a minute to get an answer. You would think that that would be like right there, right?
Right.
That everybody would know the answer to that. You wouldn't have to make phone calls and wait months to find out something like that. Well, it took a few months, and I found out there was 24 women up in Florence McClure prison that are veterans, and it hurt my heart, um, because I mean, I know whatever they did, that's one thing, but I'm like, what are you doing for them, though?
Right.
Um, do they have their claims? Do you know what they can do when they get out of there? Are there resources? Is the VA involved? Is Nevada Veteran Services involved? And it just all those questions, right? And nope,
Yeah.
nothing was happening. And so I told Dixie, I said, so I got a hold of Department of Corrections, and I said, can we give these books to these veteran women up there? And they said yes. And that just brought me to tears.
Yeah.
But it was good tears that I could give them something that they can look at and have hope for when they get out of prison, that they have resources. And I make sure Nevada Women Trades logo is on there, and Dixie signed the book and everything.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, 24 lives was changed
But
because
you
that,
care because you care.
I mean, it was only $5, and I donated them
Yeah.
because and then I end up donating to those books to Gene Prison,
Yeah.
the jail, so they could have it in their library in case any of the veteran women or anybody wants to look at it. And it was like, and then I asked, has anybody done this? And nope. And I'm like, wow.
Because you care. And the idea of the community care is that you have provided a resource to people who you have identified as needing something very specific, right? Like you could go to prison, but it's maybe a little different if you are in prison and you're a former veteran. There are things that you may experience that other people may not experience who aren't veterans. So now that you have someone who has that connection, they can say, hey, look, this is how you will come back into our society. And this is what you would need. And these are the tools by which you should get them.
Yeah, it was something. I love talking about that. People's like, "Oh, you really did?" I'm like, "Yeah."
Mhm.
And as far as I know, I'm the only one that's done it. And
Right.
not to say that I'm taking it for like that, but just say that why is nobody else before me done it? That's pretty
Right.
much what I'm saying. I'm not saying, "Ooh, I did it." I'm saying, why is nobody else did it? Why did nobody else think about it? Like, wow, that's interesting. Wow, we could go on and on. We
You
don't.
could.
Oh my goodness, because I got some other questions, but
You
again, I want to go back to. I really hope you run again. I really do. Wow, I really do.
could.
Is there is there any last words or anything that you want to say before we jump off of here?
Well, first and foremost, of course, thank you, Evelyn, for inviting me to your roundtable, for allowing me to speak about my experience and just kind of like what I know and what I've seen in my work as a public defender. And I think that, if we have more people who are like you that continues to care about the community, I think we'll just be in a way better place.
Thank you for that. And I feel the same way. I think everyone was put here on this earth to do what they're supposed to do. I think we all have gifts, and I'm not saying everybody wants to be part of on the other side of helping and giving, because everybody doesn't want to do that.
Right.
But I still believe that we're all put here on this earth to do things and to be one, instead of being separated and over here and over there and things like that. And I really appreciate you, Queen. I do. I appreciate you, and I thank you for coming on here. And I want nothing but the best for you. And anytime you a resource you might think or however, or if you need me to talk to anyone,
Right.
and anything, I'm here for you. No problem.
I appreciate you.
To really, I think we got to stay close knit to those that in this community that have been doing the right thing, that are doing the right thing, and support them and let them know they have support of the community. Because sometimes you feel like a lone ranger out there, and you're out there like you're dangling, right? And you're not dangling, Miss Jessica Smith-Peterson. Not dangling, baby.
Not dangling.
We got you. We got
All
you.
right.
We got you.
The net got me.
Oh my gosh, we got you.
All right.
And so again, and gotta have you back on here, definitely, to talk about other things. And again, hint, if you run, we definitely gotta have you back on here and to talk about that. So I really appreciate you. And
Thank you.
I'm gonna end with my mission statement. And the mission statement is to empower all women to hold hands as we rise, y'all.
PR Connections Radio thanks you for watching this podcast. Check out more episodes of this show and our others at prconnectionsradio.com.